My guest today is Harriet Hunnable. She's the head of precious metals for CME Group. And last time we were chatting was 2 years ago at the LBMA in Rome, and she said the market was at a pivotal point. She joins me today at the NYMEX. Harriet, good to have you back on.
Well, lovely to see you here in New York.
Well, as I mentioned, it's been already 2 years since we last spoke, and you were saying how the market was at a pivotal point. And looking at gold specifically, how far along have we come from that point?
Well, I think things have really changed. We've seen exchanges play an increasingly important role in these markets. More activity that was happening off exchange has moved onto the exchange. And what that means is that customers, when they're trading futures and options, can really see the whole picture of the market. So more on-exchange trading has happened. And consistent with the theme that we spoke about in Rome, Asia's important. What's happening in India, what's happening in China. These markets are really important in terms of demand center, but also in terms of the trading that's coming onto the exchanges from those centers is important too.
And we'll get into some more of the fundamentals in a second, but first let's look at the U.S. economy and of course the U.S. dollar, which has been on the rise since June. Aside from the small pullbacks we've seen, what do you make of this dollar rally despite the relatively weaker data coming out of the country?
Well, Eric Norland, one of our economists, has recently published a good piece which is pretty bullish on US housing market. But what I'd like to see is that the gold market is really trading a lot around equity volatility, interest rate volatility, as well as the currency.
Now, Harriet, do you think that the stronger US dollar is really a reflection of a stronger US economy, or is it simply just the best alternative out there?
I was in Asia last week. I was in Shanghai, and I'm really, really excited about how the Renminbi market is coming along and what that's going to mean to people who want to trade currency, that the Renminbi is actually going to be a much more important currency than it has been in the past. So while the dollar is a huge market, hugely important, I think that people should be looking at the Renminbi. That's the market to watch.
Based on growth that you foresee in China?
And also just what's happening in the Renminbi market, that the liquidity for the CNH is good, and that more and more assets are being traded with the Renminbi. Gold is now traded in Renminbi as well as in the US dollars, and I think that's very exciting. It provides more trading opportunities for our customers who are interested in trading gold against different assets.
And on that note, getting into the fundamentals of gold, obviously we had central bank monetary policy play a big role on gold, as well as the uncertainty in Greece we saw. What fundamentals are you really paying attention to right now when you're talking gold?
Well, I think that Europe is looking pretty good. It looks like it's on the right path. I think that it's volatility in other markets. That's the key thing. Volatility in equity markets, rates, and in currency as well as in oil. And as you know, Daniela, the gold ratio with WTI, that's had gone to an extreme level recently, and people will be trading basis that volatility in the oil market. How can they use gold to manage that volatility?
How big of a role do you feel Asian demand will play on gold this year?
I think Asian demand, Indian demand, Chinese demand, these are really important, but gold is a fantastic commodity in terms it gives you an opportunity to have a window on so many different other factors, be it macro issues that come into play or very specific gold issues as to whether producers are making money or not, or whether you've got a view on the US dollar. So I think that the Asian story is important, but gold's universal. Whether you're in Switzerland or you're in New York or you're in Hong Kong, people want to trade gold. It's a fantastic commodity.
Well, Harriet, before I let you go, the other interesting thing you told me 2 years ago was that you need to pay attention to open interest in gold options because that tells you what the market is thinking about.
Yes, well, absolutely. So last year, actually in 2014 in November, we hit a new record for open interest in gold options, and that's building again very nicely. We do see it as being a great way for anybody to have a window as to what's going on. So we're seeing volume good, but also that information that's coming through is great information as to whether the market's thinking about the upside or thinking about what might happen on the downside.
Well, Harriet, on that note, thanks so much for joining us, and I hope to see you sooner than 2 years.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Daniela, and I really, really love the focus that you have and that you're viewers have on the gold market.
Well, I appreciate that, Harriet. I'm sure our viewers appreciate it as well. And thank you for watching this very special edition of Kitco News from the NYMEX. We'll be back tomorrow. In the meantime, you can email us any comments or questions at newsfeedback@kitco.com.